You know, in terms of this meeting, the flood resiliency projects, can you just talk a little bit about what is on the city's list and why it's ranked the way it is?
Sure. There are two important parts of our flood resiliency work. And if it's easy, I can say big stuff and smaller stuff. And so the big stuff, we still are waiting decisions on. That is the proposed reservoir at Springbank, McLean Creek, the Glenmore Diversion Tunnel, those big projects. We continue to believe we need more than 1 out of 3 of those. The medium-sized stuff has to do with armoring riverbanks, fixing lift stations, building berms, and so on. So last year we had applied for about $50 million, $50 million of funding, and we received about 15. So this year we have $45 million worth of requests, roughly, on a program that may have between $30 and $50 million in it. These are all urgent items. They need to be done. They include things like better lift stations in Sunnyside for stormwater, building a berm around the Calgary Zoo, and a number of other projects in that vein. So the province has made very positive noises about the need to do this work, and certainly if they're not moving forward with 2 of the big projects, we need to do more and more of these medium-sized projects. So we'll wait to see how they respond to all of this.
So placing Bonnybrook at the top of the list, just can you help people understand why that one is at the top of the list, the zoo is at the bottom of the 8?
They're not really ranked because the province will look at each of those projects on their own merits. That said, stuff that regular citizens don't often think about, like making sure the wastewater treatment plant can still work during the flood, is really important, because otherwise you are going to end up dumping raw sewage into the river, and communities downstream that are getting flooded will also have to deal with that. So these things are all 8 of them are vital, all 8 of them are urgent.
Now, the city could soak up could take up $50 million a year on its own. I mean, this is a province-wide program. The city didn't do so hot last year in terms of what it requested, what it got. So do you have any expectations for this year?
Yeah, I think that we'll do quite well. I think the province understands the importance of this stuff to the city of Calgary. It's actually very dangerous for the province to make funding decisions based on whether or not the folks they're funding have been good financial managers. That's pretty bad stuff. So, you know, for them to say, people who are bankrupt are going to get all the money and those who have been careful with their money aren't getting any, is probably not a good way to do governance. At the end of the day, it is their responsibility, and we're looking forward to their participation.
In less than 3 weeks, you're going to have the one-day budget-orama.
Hopefully much less than 1 day, but yes.
Oh, yeah, but what are your thoughts now about both the operating budget, start with the operating budget and then the capital budget as where you think it's going to be going?
Sure. On the operating budget side, and that's the side that really hits people's property taxes, we've done a really good job in saving money through the budget savings accounts that were implemented last November. However, our philosophy is that we should keep budget increases to inflation plus population growth. The shocking thing about this in this downturn is the latest numbers I've seen on inflation plus population growth is they're actually higher than they were last year. Population continues to grow, and we haven't seen the huge declines in the price of things that it takes to run the city that we might have been expecting. So we're already starting off a bit behind. That's even at 4 point whatever it is. 7. Thank you, I did know that.
Yeah, I just
took me a second, vacation brain. So we're already a bit behind because my indications are that population growth plus inflation is running closer to 5 and a little higher than 5. That said, we've saved a lot of money with budget savings accounts. I know that a number of members of council, including me, are interested in scenarios for which the maximum is 4.7. So I imagine that administration will come in with recommendations that are lower than that, and council will decide if that's something they can live with.
lower, because they said they're not asking for any more.
Yeah, my sense is that they'll come in a little bit lower. You know, I had some good conversations earlier in the summer with administration and said, look, what can we do here? Given that you've saved so much money in these budget savings accounts, there are certainly things we need to invest in that are unfunded now. My biggest unfunded issue for 16-17 and forward is implementing sliding scales for city services for people below the poverty line, but that's very expensive. So I've asked administration to come back with scenarios both for tax reductions And for if you have a surplus from these budget savings accounts, where would you invest it if you wanted to keep it? And then council will make a decision. I'm not a betting man, but if I were a betting man, I would suggest that we'll come in somewhat lower than what we passed last year.
Meaning, what's somewhat lower mean?
I don't know the answer to that yet.
Right.
On the capital budget, I'm just going to say stay tuned. There are some things that I've asked administration to do and that the city manager has also been very aggressive on in seeing if we can free up some working capital. And if we are able to free up some working capital, that means we may be able to accelerate some of our building projects. I think it makes a ton of sense to do that. While interest rates are low and we're starting to see declines in things like the cost of steel and labor, it's all stuff we need to build. So we may as well build it while it's cheaper and we're not competing with the energy sector for their big mega projects for labor and materials. So we're trying to figure out how we can do that within the existing capital budget. So stay tuned. I think there'll be some news on that later in the month.
Is all that going to happen in one day? All the budget discussion, do you think?
It's up to council. It's up to council to see if
Do you think there'll be a lot
that's
of
something they can
asks
live
from,
with.
because that's what will keep it going longer. Do you think that, do you have a sense there's going to be a lot of adjustments that council members will be requesting?
I would suggest that there won't be any adjustments going up. Council members don't typically do that anyway. There may be some asks to go down, but I think administration is going to create a few different scenarios.
Ask you a question. Snowtember, this week's the anniversary.
I know.
A year later, are we where you thought we might be after a year?
Yeah, I think we're doing a good job. I had said last year that we wouldn't know the full extent of the tree damage until the trees leafed out. And it was a little bit better than our worst expectations. And we continue through Retree YYC and other programs to continue to plant, but this is a years-long recovery program. It's not something that can be done in half an hour. As I said earlier this summer, I was very, very disappointed with the province's decision to not fund this, but we got paid for it, so we'll do it.